It's no secret that it's been an absolutely disastrous start to the season for Sheffield United. They're now the only club in the Championship yet to win a match this season. They're rooted to the bottom of the table with 0 points. And there was no new manager bounce over the weekend as they took on Charlton and lost again. In today's video, we'll be having a bit of a deeper dive into the Blades so far this season, some of their underlying metrics and where things have gone so badly wrong for them. Sheffield United fans, I'd love to get your input on this in the comments down below, because I think I speak for most Championship fans, whereby I think the vast majority of people had Sheffield United predicted to finish in the top 6 once again. Didn't see too many people tipping them for automatic promotion, but after going so close last season, even with all the change that happened there over the summer in terms of recruitment, replacing Wilder, I know he's back at the club now, with Ruben Selles, a lot of people were still quite high on the Blades coming into this season, but it can't have started out much worse. All of that will be discussed throughout today's video. Let's just dive in. So following the latest round of matches, this is what the Championship table looks like, and it's Sheffield United rooted to the bottom of the table, and it has been a truly woeful start for them. 6 games played, 6 games lost, 1 goal scored, 13 conceded. They're already 5 points adrift of safety, and obviously Watford still have to play tonight against Millwall as well. I was scrolling through Twitter before and came across this statistic that Sheffield United Way posted. Sheffield United became only the 4th team in Championship history to lose their opening 6 league games following that defeat against Charlton. The only other 3 sides that have done that in Championship history previously were Sheffield Wednesday in 2007, Peterborough in 2012, and Wickham in 2020, and out of those 3 clubs it was only Sheffield Wednesday who survived after that terrible start to the season. From Chris Wilder's comments after the Charlton match, you can see that he's walked into a situation that's maybe a little bit more damaged and fractured than he initially anticipated. I thought this quote from after the game was quite telling. The players that I had last season and the players that came in, it does feel like it's been quite damaging what's happened over the previous 5 games. Maybe I was too much on the optimistic side of we'll be okay. Now in that game against Charlton, it wasn't a disastrous performance by any means. We spoke about it in a little bit more depth in yesterday's video during the Championship roundup, but it was just more of the same really. Sheffield United looking pretty blunt and out of ideas in the final third, and ultimately they were hit by that sucker punch late on by Charlton. Bit of a scrappy goal for Sheffield United to concede. I still think Cooper should have done a little bit better for that goal. We'll speak about him later in this video. But a sort of performance that's been typical of this Blade squad so far this season, and even Wilder coming back hasn't given them that new manager bounce like I think a lot of us anticipated would be the case this weekend. Going back to Wilder's comments, obviously there's been a hell of a lot of change at Sheffield United over the summer, not just in the dugout, which was obviously a failed appointment in Ruben Selles, but with the playing squad as well. They lost some big characters, probably the biggest of which being Vinny Souza, who was absolutely pivotal to their playoff push last season. But on paper, I still think they've made a number of tidy signings within this bunch here, but it did feel like increasingly towards the end of the transfer window, Sheffield United maybe became a little bit desperate and got a few panic buys in late on. What certainly didn't help them was how late they left their recruitment in a number of positions, particularly in defence, where they were so short at the start of the season. You know, they had Reece Norrington-Davis playing as a centre-half against Bristol City on that season opener, and they were absolutely ripped apart. Quite a few of their signings we're yet to really see anything of, and so it's too early to tell whether or not they'll be a success or not, but they're coming into an environment which I think it's fair to say is very difficult to thrive in at the moment. There's definitely a negative mood around there. Undoubtedly, one of the biggest concerns with Sheffield United right now is their underlying attacking metrics, which have been amongst the worst in the Championship so far this season. So after 6 matches, Sheffield United have only had 11 shots on target. That's the worst record in the league, along with Derby County. Watford and Millwall are just above them here, but they still have a game to play tonight, so we'll likely move ahead of them after that. Oxford are down there as well, but that's not taken into consideration the game they had yesterday against Bristol City. These stats haven't updated for that game yet. So Sheffield United really sort of cut adrift at the bottom of this table with Derby here. Even more frustrating from a Sheffield United perspective is the fact that they have also been, statistically, the most wasteful club in the Championship as well. Even with the chances that they've created, they've not been taking an XG underperformance of -4.6 goals, and I think that does speak to not just a lack of quality, because I do think Sheffield United have some good forwards, but a real lack of confidence at the moment. One player in particular that I'd point towards for Sheffield United that I just think has been a bit of a muddled buy. They didn't purchase him with the right intentions of how they wanted to play him and how he was going to be stylistically a fit into that squad, is Tom Cannon. I can speak from first-hand knowledge, seeing him at Preston. Tom Cannon can score goals in the Championship, and we were heavily linked with a move for him on deadline day. And obviously, I'm going to say this as a Preston fan, but I think that would have been a really good move for Sheffield United, Cannon and Preston if we did get him in on loan. I think we could have boosted his confidence up, got him back to scoring goals and put into a system that he can actually thrive in. You don't sign Tom Cannon and play him as a lone striker. I think we've seen that on too many occasions at Sheffield United so far. You guys know that just won't work. He needs to be playing up there with a partner. And on a few examples, looking at that Sheffield United squad at the moment, it does feel like a little bit of square pegs, round holes, that sort of thing. But along with those poor underlying attacking numbers, defensively, they've also been all over the place so far this season. Only Sheffield Wednesday have conceded more shots on target than the Blades have after 6 matches. 36 shots on target they faced in those 3 games. That's an average of 6 shots on target per 90. Other clubs who are up there in this regard, you've got Wrexham, who have obviously conceded a lot of goals so far this season, Derby, who have looked quite leaky, Hull as well, Norwich and QPR. I've said in a few videos on the Championship roundup so far this season that I don't think Michael Cooper has looked like the same goalkeeper. I think he, like a number of players in that squad, are suffering a bit of a confidence crisis right now. But when you're peppered with this many shots, is it any surprise? And this was their strong suit last season. Sheffield United were known for their defensive solidity, especially in the first half of last season. Speaking of Cooper, no doubt he was one of the best goalkeepers in the Championship last season. There were genuine debates over who was the best goalkeeper in the league last season. Was it Cooper? Was it James Trafford? Was it Victor Johansson? And validly so. In terms of shot prevention, he was statistically the 5th best goalkeeper in the Championship with 6.5 goals prevented. But then you have a bit of a dig into the underlying numbers of this season, and it's a total contrast. He's been statistically the worst goalkeeper in the league this season in terms of shot prevention. I mentioned it before when we were talking about the Charlton game. Thought he should have done better with that goal. I think the Michael Cooper of last season saves that Alafe chance at the end. I think the game against Ipswich was a bit of a confidence hammerer for all of that Sheffield United squad. I think a couple of those goals went through his legs, didn't they, in that game? My biggest question for Sheffield United right now is, where is that first win going to come from? Where are they going to get that moment, that spark to pick up their confidence and then go on a bit of a roll? Because I, like a lot of people, thought that that might have come at the weekend against Charlton, but looking at their upcoming fixtures, it's not an easy run they've got coming up. For example, next up for Sheffield United, they're going away to play Oxford, who are coming off the back of a terrific performance and result away at Bristol City. Was really impressed with Oxford in this game. I thought that first half especially, they were all over Bristol City at points of that game. We saw Placheta scoring an absolute worldie as well. And Oxford, since they've been up in the Championship, have proven themselves to be a tough side to beat at home, especially under a manager like Gary Rowett. In terms of the upcoming fixture list for Sheffield United, this is what it's looking like. My biggest concern is if they don't get a win before the next international break. How down is that whole club going to feel during that period? And we've only got 3 Championship games left until that next international break. So Sheffield United have got games against Oxford away, Southampton at home and Hull away before we then have that break, and then they return to action at Bramall Lane against Watford. These 3 matches are absolutely pivotal in my opinion to Sheffield United and what's possible for them for the rest of the season, because I mean, if we go into that next international break in the ridiculous scenario that Sheffield United have lost 9 consecutive matches to start the season, how do you recover from that start? Not even in terms of getting back into a top 6 race like I think some fans are hopeful of, but just in terms of keeping your head above water in the Championship, you'll be so far cut adrift by that point. Like I say, I do think that game away at Oxford will be really tough. We've seen Oxford at home recently taking points off good Coventry and Leicester squads. I think they'll have their tails up in this one against Sheffield United at the weekend. At home against Southampton, anything could happen in that game. I've also been quite underwhelmed by Southampton, but I think they do have a bit more about them, particularly in the final third. They've shown that they can hold on to the ball quite well. It's just in terms of converting that possession into clear chances, but they're a lot further along, in my opinion, under Will Still than Sheffield United are under Chris Wilder right now, especially with all the new players they're looking to integrate into the squad. And then away at Hull, that's no easy game either. Hull have shown that they can score goals and can take advantage of defences being a little bit lax, and you absolutely can bet your house that Ollie McBurney is going to be well fired up for that game. And with how well he started this season so far, I'd put good money on him scoring against the Blades in that game. Ultimately, it is a really messy situation that Sheffield United find themselves in. I still think it's too early for massive sweeping statements like Sheffield United are definitely going to be involved in a relegation scrap this season. We are still only 6 games into this campaign, but like I was saying earlier in the video, for me personally, where Sheffield United are at that next international break, so how they perform over these next 3 matches under Wilder, I think is going to be really telling for what's possible for this squad this season and how bad the damage actually is there. Because if Wilder can't get them going in these next 3 matches, I really would start to worry about them from that point, especially considering how competitive this league looks from front to back. I think if you consider how well a lot of their sides have started, who a lot of people thought would be in a relegation scrap this season, you know, Hull, many had tipped for relegation. They've started out quite well. Charlton as well. My side, North End, who a lot of people had tipped for the bottom 3, we're in the top 6 right now with 11 points from 6. Even Sheffield Wednesday have looked a lot more competitive than I think a lot of people gave them credit for at the start of the season. So yeah, 0 points on the board after 6 matches. It's a big few weeks coming up at Bramall Lane. I would be fascinated to know your guys' thoughts on this in the comments down below. And any Sheffield United fans or neutrals, what's your realistic prediction for where you think they'll finish come the end of the season? It's a tough prediction to make right now. I think for me personally, if push came to shove and I had to put a league position on where I think they'll finish at the moment, I'd probably go about 15th, maybe somewhere around that region of the table. I just don't see them pushing the top 6 at the moment with how badly they've started, but I still think they'll have enough to get away from this relegation zone. Whatever the case is, it's going to be fascinating to watch over these next few weeks, as is the Championship in general. I've really enjoyed this start to the season. Guys, if you went on to enjoy today's video, make sure to drop a like and get all your thoughts on this situation in the comments down below. Apart from that, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.